Hey YouTube, what is up? I know it's been a little bit and I wanted to make an update because I had people who were wondering why I haven't been on social media and family members asking me where I've been, why haven't I contacted them, and some people who knew I was in the hospital and just kind of wanted an update on if they figured out anything. So I kind of wanted to give you an update, just make a video, make it that much easier so I'm not having to repeat the same thing over and over again and explaining everything. So video, way easier. Um, a lot of people know that I've been struggling with my stomach issues for a while now, since this past November, and they just kind of got worse, and I lost control of my POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and I was to the point where I really couldn't take care of the kids anymore. I wasn't eating at all. I would drink, like, chug an Ensure, eat a couple bites of peanut butter, and my stomach would be super upset. So it's kind of like you stop eating because you are in so much pain from eating that it deters you away from eating food. So that's kind of what happened. And when I was in the ER about a month ago, maybe longer, I can't remember, there was a nurse in there whose daughter has POTS and also gastroparesis. And she went on a website. We exchanged numbers and we've been talking, and her daughter and I talk. And she went online and found a doctor in Miami who is an electrophysiologist, cardiologist, and internal meds doctor. He's all three. And he specializes in dysautonomias and POTS. So I was excited, but I was still apprehensive because when I was referred to the Cleveland Clinic by another doctor, one of the cardiologists that I saw there supposedly specialized in POTS, which he really didn't at all, actually. He took me off medicine that I'm supposed to be on, and he told me to drink coffee and caffeine, which you're not supposed to do when you have POTS. So there were a lot of issues from the Cleveland Clinic, and they never got to the bottom of my stomach issues, so I will never see them ever again. I do not recommend going there if you have any issue that is more complex. But anyway, I decided to go ahead and make an appointment with the electrophysiologist out in Miami. His name is John Delusky, and he's in Miami. I think he's with the Arrhythmia Management Institute, and I highly recommend him. Like I said, I was super skeptical at first just because we were told that the cardiologist at the Cleveland Clinic specialized in POTS, and he really knew nothing. So I was nervous, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want it to be a waste of a drive. I didn't want it to be a waste of money. I didn't want to just be more discouraged and more angry leaving there. So I really kind of didn't get my hopes up. So Steve and I went ahead and we went down there. Not this past Wednesday. Today is Saturday, August 6th. So not this Wednesday that just passed, but the one before. We went down and we saw him. And he explained how everything with POTS worked, like down to a science, and how things are related to it, and what I need to do and what I don't need to do. And he was a huge help, and he wanted to do a tilt table test and echo. I've already had 2 tilt table tests done, and they both came back positive for POTS, but he wanted to do one to kind of check for any other types. So he put me back on the atenolol full force, and he put me on Florinef, which is supposed to retain fluids in the body. So when we left there, we had like a plan of care. Like, we were going to go ahead and start doing these things, and that next Wednesday I was supposed to go for a tilt table test and echo. And he really wanted to do it the next day, but I had to be off medication for a certain amount of days. So we left there. We felt so relieved because we had so much information, and we gained so much knowledge, and Steve got to kind of like understand better how it all works. So after seeing him, I was really excited, and Steve and I ended up going to dinner at a sushi place. And I tried eating, and my stomach just felt so upset. I got super dizzy, lightheaded. I thought I was going to pass out after trying to eat. So I only ate a couple bites of food, and then we left after Steve was finished. And My mom had been asking me how I was feeling and how I was doing, and I told her I really wasn't doing good. I felt really, really sick. And she called John Deluski, and then John called her back and told her that he wants me admitted because I am malnourished. So it was kind of like an okay, Steve and I were already on our way back home to go pick up the girls from Steve's parents' house, and then we had to turn around. We were kind of like, okay, what are we gonna do with the kids? Like, all these thoughts went running through our mind. So we pulled over, we made some phone calls, and just played it by ear and just prayed for the best. So we went to Target, then we went to pick up like some pajamas and stuff, and then we went ahead and went through the ER, and the ER took forever to get us admitted. But they had to wait for a room, and they had already orders to have me admitted and stuff. So we didn't get into the room. We got to the hospital around like 10 p.m. and we didn't get into a room until almost 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was a really long night, and Steve had to go back and be with the girls that morning. So he slept in the ER, the best that he could, and then he took a little nap before he went back. So at around 6:30, 6 or 6:30, he left to go back to where we live and pick up the girls and watch them and stuff. And after that, my mom came down the next day, Thursday. She came down, I think, Friday. And that was a huge help because I'm not a person who's like really pushy. I kind of just, listen to the doctors on what they say and try to make it as easy as possible and not argue with them and stuff like that. But my mom was there to kind of like really push things. And I ended up being discharged this past Thursday, so a couple days ago. And while I was in the hospital, I had tons of blood work. I met with nutrition, rheumatology, cardiology, electrophysiology, which is John Deluski, so he saw me in the hospital, primary, GI, and I think that's it. And I had a ton of lab draws. Like, I can't even tell you how many lab draws I had. I would have sometimes 2 in a day, and there'd be 3 to 8 tubes of blood that they would take. So I had to switch out my IV 3 times because my veins were just done. And I had a heart cath done, and they found that I had an additional arrhythmia. With POTS, you have tachycardia. But when I was in the heart cath, they were trying to get the heart going to see if there was an additional arrhythmia that they could ablate, which means like burn off where they figure out where in the heart that the arrhythmia is coming from, and then they burn that area that's causing the issue, and that usually helps fix it. Well, they were able to find an arrhythmia, an additional arrhythmia. However, they weren't able to keep the arrhythmia going long enough to be able to ablate it. So that really sucked. The heart cath wasn't an extremely long procedure. It is painful afterwards because they put the catheters up into your groin, but it was I think it took about 2 hours from setup to being finished. And he had told me that he wasn't able to keep the arrhythmia going, that the reason that could be is due to ovulation, and due to the fact that I'm not in my normal environment that could be causing the arrhythmias. Not the cause of the arrhythmia, but like I'm not doing my usual thing to keep the arrhythmia going and to feel. They were inducing the arrhythmia on their own. I wasn't doing anything to cause the arrhythmia. So I definitely have more than one arrhythmia. It's just a matter of figuring out where it's coming from and what kind. So 2 days later, I had, I think that day actually, I had an MRI of the brain, or the day before I had an MRI of the brain. I can't remember the days on when I had everything because it was just constantly nonstop testing. Then a couple of days after I had the heart cath done, I had a loop recorder placed in my chest, and because they weren't able to keep the arrhythmia going, he placed a loop recorder in my chest, and it will stay in there for 3 years. It has a 3-year battery life, and basically it will, anytime there's an arrhythmia, it will send it via Wi-Fi to my doctor, John Delusky in Miami, which is pretty freaking cool. Like, it's amazing how technology has advanced, because they can do so much now. So it's about that long and very, very thin. And the only thing that I did not like about it is I have like a tolerance to general anesthesia and in anesthesia in general. And so when I was when I went to get this thing placed, they were just going to use a local anesthetic. And when he did that, of course they sterilized everything, prepped everything, and I had like a sheet over my face and everything like that. But when he went to do the anesthesia in the chest, it wasn't really working. And he cut through, and I felt it kind of, but I was like, okay, I'm just going to brush it off. Maybe it's just taking some time for the lidocaine to kick in. Well, when he started digging and pushing the thing into my chest, I could feel my tissue ripping. It was burning. That was probably 10 times worse. Like, that pain was 10 times worse than the pain that I went through a C-section. Like, it hurt. I felt everything. So he was yelling at the nurse, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He went and told his nurse, go get something to knock her out. So they went and got something to knock me out. And I wasn't fully asleep, but I was definitely like twilighted. So he ended up injecting more lidocaine and then quickly like finish everything up. And he just applied pressure while they went and got saline and stuff to knock me out. So that was definitely an interesting experience, but I'm glad it's in, and I have like this little machine that's by the side of our bed, and whenever I go to sleep at night, it transmits it over to him, and then I have a little like on the go thing, so whenever if I'm like out and I feel the arrhythmia and I feel the symptoms, then I place it up to my chest and it records and then immediately sends off instead of waiting till that night. That way John can say, hey, you need to go to the ER, or hey, I need to see you in my office, or hey, everything's okay. So I think it's a really, really cool thing. And then that night, I had a colonoscopy endoscopy done. And the prep for that was miserable. I hadn't gone to the bathroom in over a week. And a couple of days before the procedure, I had magnesium to help me go to the bathroom. And then they gave me a laxative. They gave me Go Lightly and an enema, and then wanted me to do another laxative. And I was like, no. So I did the magnesium the one day, and then the night before the colonoscopy endoscopy, I did a couple sips of Go Lightly, but it started coming back up, so I stopped. And then I did the laxative, and that helped. And then the morning of the procedure, before the thing was placed, I had an enema, and they wanted to give me another laxative, and I was like, no, because at that point I had nothing in my body. I lost more weight in the hospital. I lost a total of 18 pounds from not eating, and I'm sure the prep didn't help either. So I've lost a lot of weight. Nutrition was really struggling to figure out what to do nutrition wise. There was mention of like tubes and stuff like that, like to be tube fed, but once they ran a test that tests for celiac disease in the blood, the antibodies came back at 100. You only need to be at a 10 to be positive for celiac disease, and I was 100. So they were pretty confident in saying that I had celiac disease. And if you don't know what that is, it is an autoimmune disorder that whenever gluten enters the body attacks itself. it's not just like, it's not where you're sensitive to gluten. Like, you can't even eat food that's come in contact with someone's hands that have touched gluten, or a glove or a machine that makes foods with gluten. You can't touch that with gluten-free stuff, or that's cross-contamination. So when I had the colonoscopy and endoscopy done, they said that everything structurally looked good. They took samples of the small intestine, which they said was kind of iffy. That they feel confident in saying that I do have celiac disease, but without that biopsy, it's not like 100% without a 1% doubt that I don't have it or that I do have it. So the biopsy will 100% confirm it, and if it comes back negative, then I still would be positive for celiac. So they took tons of biopsies of the colon, the rectum, the small intestine, the stomach, everywhere. I had tons of biopsies done. They said I might have something else, but that they didn't really want to say what until the results came back. So August 22nd, I'll go in to follow up with GI in Miami, and I'll continue to get my antibody counts rechecked over and over again to make sure they're going down by being on the gluten-free diet, and to monitor my weight and just get the results of the biopsies and stuff. So basically, after all the tests and all that, it was very stressful. It was a long stay, but I'm home now and I'm happy to be home, and I've started already on the gluten-free diet. I've started all my medications. I'm just looking forward to having more energy and just to feeling better and being able to be here for the kids and to help Steve and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely a life adjustment to be gluten-free. It's a lot of information, but we were still told to go and see the doctor in Pensacola who has POTS himself. So that way he can oversee everything and he can be more of a support with the POTS, because he would know a lot more, and he'd be able to treat a lot more. The goal with seeing the POTS doctor out there is also for him to approve saline therapy at home, because usually with POTS, your electrolytes are really off and your potassium and all that stuff. So saline at home has had a really, really great change for those who have POTS. So everyone that I know who does saline therapy at home has amazing results and feels so much better. So that is my main goal going there, is to get a port place to do saline therapy at home, and fingers crossed that he agrees to it, because I need it. I'm still not able to eat a whole lot. I tried eating fruit yesterday, and I had a gluten-free hamburger without the bun yesterday. The fruit felt okay, but the hamburger destroyed my stomach. So I don't think I'm quite ready for solids yet. And there was a lot of inflammation in my stomach and craters, he said, where either an ulcer was forming or an ulcer was healing. And some scarring and lesions. So he thinks that it's just my stomach is so diseased and inflamed that it's going to take a while for it to heal. But yeah, that's just kind of been the update. I just haven't had the energy and just been feeling lousy. So that's why I haven't been on social media. But hoping to get this going and hoping to feel better. And Steve is blowing up my phone, so I should probably go. Thanks for watching. Oh, also, if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below, and I will start posting some gluten-free meals and gluten-free hauls and stuff like that. So just let me know if you have any suggestions on videos to make. And let me know if you know any good gluten-free recipes. If you have celiac disease and you have some good recipes, go ahead and send them to me. I would love to see them. I would love to give them a try. But yeah, bye.